Hey everyone, this is Aaron St. Dennis, the Mad Scientist. You are checking into the Mad Science Lab. Thanks for joining me. Today we'll be continuing on with my Rookie My Guy series, and joining me today is fellow league mate and the legend himself, Dave Heilman. Dave, thanks for joining me. Want to tell us a little bit about yourself, where we can find you?
Yeah, you can find me at Dynasty Dorks on Twitter or TikTok. I work for Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and so I'm their lead Dynasty analyst. So I do their rankings. We do 2 Dynasty shows a week for SGPN Fantasy, and you can find all my content on sportsgamblingpodcast.com or SGPN Fantasy on YouTube.
You right there are the exact reason why I don't introduce people. I let them introduce yourself. I think the first time I tried to do this, I was looking, I'm going SPGNSN. I can't remember. So you remember your shit better than I do. So that's why you get to say it.
Appreciate it.
I also skipped myself. You can find me at the League Winners, King Fantasy Sports, DLF, or Player Profiler, and my rankings on Fantasy Pros. Dave is here with us today to do my guys. We'll start up. Let me bring up the graphic here. I'll introduce you first, my guy. It is Utah tight end Dalton Kincaid, checking in at 6'3", 246. I've been doing running backs all day, so instinctively I wanted to say that's huge, but then I realized it's a tight end. A lot of his measurements, did he not test, or did I get it late?
He had a back injury, so he was just recovering from that. He's going to be good to go, for training camp and all that, but he wasn't able to do those things.
I thought so. I thought I remember him being injured and not testing, and then I seen DNP on all this, and I said, shit, did he test at his pro day and I missed it? But no, we're safe. So, like I said, he's a little smaller than most tight ends, but I don't think his size is really what excites people. So what is it for you that brings you to Kincaid?
Yeah, I mean, this is fantasy football, and so we're looking for who's going to be the guy that's going to be, could be a fantasy football star. Yeah, he's a little smaller, and so any, height elitists will not like Kincaid as much as others. He's not as good of a blocker as the other guys, but unless you play in a blocking fantasy football league, I'm not as concerned. This guy is a slot receiver. He runs routes like a receiver. And, I said yesterday, if him and Michael Mayer and Darnell Washington all have the same targets and the same receptions, this guy will bring you more fantasy points. He is elite after he gets the ball in his hands, as far as yards after the catch, and as far as air yards. You're looking for for a top 5 tight end, 1,000 air yards is the benchmark. You're looking for someone that can do that. Those are your Darren Wallers and your Travis Kelce's and your George Kittles. They're getting targeted down the field versus your other guys like Dalton Schultz and back in the history of Jason Witten. Those are kind of your run to the sticks, turn around, catch the ball, fall down, Austin Hooper types. Like Michael Mayer is a great tight end. He's a more well-rounded tight end. But Dalton Kincaid is absolutely my tight end 1 for fantasy football purposes.
Before I say my player comp, I don't know if he has this ceiling. I don't expect this because he's the legend, but when I watch him, the way he operates in the slot, the way he plays, just the intelligence and the way he reads the defenses, I see a lot of Travis Kelce in there. Obviously, I don't expect Travis Kelce. I just, when I look at him and I look at the way Kelce plays, like this, I always go back to the old Super Bowl clip from a few years ago where Kelce's on the field and they're mic'd up and you hear him telling Mahomes, hey, they're leaving me alone in the slot. I'm going to run this, throw it to here, then we'll do this. He plays smart like that. I feel he may not be as well-rounded as Mayer, and he may not have this, obviously he doesn't have the ceiling of Kelce, but may not have the ceiling of Mayer, but he's really smart, and the way he operates that's what I like best about him. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Move the Sticks, Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks did an offense-only mock draft, and so they each drafted a team of 11 starters, and Bucky Brooks took Dalton Kincaid, and Daniel Jeremiah was just, that's my guy, that hurt me, and he talked exactly about Kelce, and he said, I know that it's kind of blasphemous to say this, but he has Kelce-like tendencies in the way that he moves. He's such a fluid mover. He's so sharp in and out of his breaks. And, part of it's his size, but he moves like a receiver. And you see a lot of tight ends, like they just can't create a lot of separation. And then some of the acrobatic, athletic catches that you're seeing downfield, it's like, who is this guy, And so if you watch probably his best game, it's the USC game. He had 17 receptions, over 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. Everybody in the stadium, everybody watching TV knew the ball is going to Kincaid, and nobody could stop this guy. And so you talk about Kelsey, that's the kind of dominating player you have here, where like everybody knows it's coming, nobody can stop it.
I'm going to use that though. You're right. That's a perfect way to describe it. He may not be Travis Kelsey, but he has Kelsey-like tendencies, and that's exactly what I saw. So I definitely think the potential is there. He is going right now, according to DLF Superflex rookie ADP, as pick 20. So middle to back end of the second round. What I've seen a lot of is when we started the pre-draft process, excuse me, the first tight end was normally Mayer going off the board late first. Since we've seen the depth of this class, Kincaid, Washington, whoever else emerge, it's pushed it down. And the first tight end going off the board, I'm seeing anywhere between 206 and 208, and it's been 50-50 between Mayer and Kincaid. So they're getting to the point where you're starting to get pretty good value for him late in the second. Where do you feel comfortable drafting him?
Yeah, I think, early to mid second. I think, the 203, 206 range. I always remind all of my listeners, if you're looking at an average ADP, that's an average. So 205 means somebody's taking them at 201 and someone's taking them at 207, 208. So if you really, really want the guy, don't wait for the price point. If you want to, be cute and maximize the value, hopefully you do get him at 206, 207. But if you absolutely want Kincaid, you're going to have to take him probably in the 203, 204 range, especially when he goes first round. And he's going to go first round.
Well, that was going to be my next point. But I find that it's more so true more so this year. Once you get to 112 or 201, it's just a big, long, like there's no ADP. All the way through the second round, it's kind of get your guy. There's some receivers, a couple of tight ends, a couple of running backs. Take your guys. So just because it says his ADP is 210, you want to take him at 201, take your guy.
Yeah, I think I got him at 12 or 13 on my big board in Superflex. And so obviously there's a few quarterbacks ahead of him, a few running backs, a few receivers, but like I'm taking him over the Josh Downs and the Jalen Hyatts and in that range.
So you said you think you do he does get first round draft capital. Where would you like to see him go? Green Bay?
Green Bay would be interesting.
I think he goes that early. That's what, 15?
Yeah, I think Green Bay is that's kind of like the range where it starts. Like the conversation starts with Green Bay, and I would love to see him on the Bengals if he fell that far, or the Bengals were to rise up.
Wow.
That would be an absolute, monster spot right there. So I think there's a few locations. I think Buffalo would be interesting. I know they have Dawson Knox. I'm not a huge Knox believer.
Neither am I.
Gabriel Davis is a free agent next year. They have a big need in the slot. And so I know everybody's kind of pointing at the receiver position, and Buffalo could go that route. But this guy is an absolute weapon. And I love what Move the Stick said. He said, teams need to stop worrying about stopping the Chiefs. It ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
You need to get as much firepower as possible and try to go and be able to compete against them in those shutouts and in those shootouts like Buffalo and the Bengals did, where they almost beat them. And so, and the Bengals did beat them a couple times. Like, you just got to outscore these guys. And Dalton Kincaid is someone that can help you do that.
I love it. Absolutely love it. I'm excited to see where he goes in the draft. That'll kind of help me determine where he falls on my board. We will move on to your next guy here. Let's bring that up. Oklahoma running back Eric Gray checking in at 5'9.5", 207 pounds. Again, did he not run the 40? I checked multiple times and I don't have a 40 time on him.
I don't believe so.
I'm not sure why that was there. That's probably, unless is he injured, or that's kind of scary. If a guy's not injured and doesn't run the 40 as a running back, that tells me he thinks he's not all that fast. I could run a quick double check here to
yeah, I don't remember whether he ran a 40 or not. I was at the combine. I did get to participate in the media sessions and meet with Gray. He was there. And you see he participated in some other events. So he may have done a 40 at the pro day. As far as the
I'm
tape,
looking at. I've got it right now. I have him as a 4.62, but the website I'm on. Oh, that says he ran a 4.62 at his pro day. So that's only 30th percentile. He did do some stuff at his pro day. Looks like he had an 84th percentile vert, 30th percentile 40. And then his 3-cone and bench were 17% and 12%. But the rest of his metrics, shuttle and broad, were 50 to 60 range. So average. So like I said, 4.62 40, which, a lot of time the 40 time is overblown. I'm not sure how much it really matters. You're running in your underwear with no tacklers. So what is it you like?
yeah, and I like Eric Gray as far as his dual threat skill set. And so I wanted to go a little bit deeper with my guy. I don't have Eric Gray in my top 3 rankings. I believe I have him as RB7, but I'm much higher than the consensus on Eric Gray.
He's
He is
43 right now on DLF. So RB7, they have him in the, what's that, mid to late 4th round.
Yeah.
So.
He's an absolute steal in the 3rd round. This guy reminds me a lot of like Khalil Herbert. He's a little bit older of a prospect. The game really slowed down for him this year. There was only 2 players graded out as top 10 at the running back position at both receiving and rushing. That was Zach Charbonnet and Eric Gray. Eric Gray he's a great pass catcher, and he also offers you the ability to rush. I know A-Chain and Deuce Vaughn are absolutely great in the receiving game.
Yeah.
But he's got a little bit more size on him. He also can run between the tackles. He's got really quick feet, really, really quick short space. And, some of these guys, you'll see like the numbers, you're like, oh, that guy got 30, 40 catches. He must be a good pass catcher. Well, he got 30, 40 dump offs or screen passes. Yeah. Like Eric Gray can actually come out of the backfield, run. He can line up in the slot. He can do different things to add a weapon to the passing game. No, he's not going to, blow you away as far as athleticism. But I do think Eric Gray, and Move the Sticks talking about them at the Senior Bowl, Tyjae Spears was all the talk.
Yeah.
And absolutely deserving. I have him above Eric Gray. And so, but Lance Zierlein said, hey, I need to give some props to Eric Gray out here. I have him graded higher than Tyjae Spears. I have him graded as an average starter in the NFL. And Lance Zierlein, I'll take his word for it. And he's pretty spot on things. And with Gray, like I said, it really has to do with the dual threat skill set, specifically his receiving ability. He's one of the best as far as route running and also, pass catching in the class.
And I think that's going to cause him to go higher in the draft than most people think, based on the class of receivers and running backs being mostly one-dimensional. Where do you think he could go in the draft? You think he sneaks into day 2?
I think he's probably an early day 3 guy. You're looking at round 4, round 5. I think the depth of the class is going to hurt them collectively.
Yeah.
If you're wanting a running back and there's 4 or 5 guys that are clustered all together,
you might get one.
Yeah. And I think, it's going to be a real good value in your dynasty drafts. I do a lot of mock drafts, and I can't believe that Eric Gray and Izzy Abanikanda are at the late 3rd round available. Like
I've seen them in 4th rounds. Late 4th rounds.
Yeah, what is going on? And I don't think that's going to be the case when it comes down to it, as far as your drafts that happen after the NFL draft. These guys are too good. Yeah. Of course, a terrible landing spot and 7th round draft capital. Yeah, that's probably going to be bad, for them. But if they get 4th round with some decent draft capital, even if it's right behind, a starter, don't be afraid to take shots on these rookie running backs in the 2nd and 3rd rounds. Last year, everyone talks about the quarterbacks switching after the bye week. We saw a lot of running backs take over the backfields halfway through the season last year, or after Tyler Algier took over the backfield. We saw James Cook take over the backfield. We saw Rachaad White take over the backfield. It took a few weeks, but Dameon Pierce took over the backfield. So
Walker, but injury
happened. But you're still you're looking at guys that it did not appear that they were going to have a clear path. And then by midway through the season, they were taking over the backfield. And so if you see him in a situation where this guy's behind Joe Mixon or this guy's behind Dalvin Cook, don't be surprised if in November all of a sudden Isaiah Pacheco's another one. You're
Yeah.
like, okay, this guy's now the starter.
This is the kind of guy where I love taking a late third or fourth round pick on him, taking a shot, putting him on a taxi squad. Then when he takes, the Algier Pacheco scenario where it looks like he's great, I love waiting until the end of the season because he's a day 3 pick, flipping him for a profit, turning that into a second rounder next year because I love riding the day 3 picks rookie year. The likelihood of them, Algier, Pacheco, the likelihood of that being their career season is pretty damn high. Flip them for a profit and move on.
Yeah, you're echoing my thoughts from our episode on Monday. We were doing sell targets before the draft, and I said anyone drafted after round 3 in the 2022 class, and just went through the whole list. I said, Dameon Pierce, you're in danger. Rashad White, you're in danger. Brian Robinson, like any of these guys could be easily replaced.
Yeah, I put a whole article on it, and I said those were my top 3: Algier, Pacheco, and Pierce, and everyone hated it. Oh, Pierce is a top 10 running back in Dynasty. Well, do you know what the odds are in that offense of a guy with little to no draft capital being a top 10 running back in Dynasty moving forward? They go to the draft like we said that with James Robinson. I get he was undrafted, but next thing you know, it's a first-round pick, and it's like, oh, shit, we were wrong on James Robinson, and he's got no value now.
Yeah, I was, like I said, I was at the combine in the media, and we got to interview all the running backs, and we asked them, what teams have you met with? Almost every single running back said they met with Houston.
Yeah. So the moral of the story is sell Dameon Pierce now because you could probably conceivably get a first-round rookie pick for him.
Dameon Pierce, we did a price check show last night. I do a lot of Dynasty price check threads and things like that.
I do your polls on Twitter, yeah.
And Dameon Pierce and Tyler Algier, I'm going to do next. And looking at the trades and looking at Trade Finder, they are pulling in some serious draft capital. And if they escape the draft, you're okay. But people are investing very highly in those guys. And in 2 weeks from today, they could be pretty sad.
You should throw in Pacheco to that poll for the value poll.
Oh, yeah.
Just one sec here. I was trying to bring up the Trade Finder to see, but it's going to take me too long to find. So
yeah, it's like I said, as far as Eric Gray, I totally get it. Like he doesn't have the measurements, but this is a guy again that was a highly graded rusher, highly graded receiver, and these teams are wanting to have somebody that does both. And when you're looking at like the Patriots, they love like positionless football. You don't want to have to like change. When you do a substitution, the defense gets to do a substitution. You don't want to have to substitute your players, and you also don't want people to know what you're doing. So if a guy like Ramondre Stevenson is on the field, you don't know if they're going to run or they're going to pass. Damian Harris comes trotting out. You know it's going to be a run.
Yeah.
Or more likely to be a run. So that's part of it too.
I agree completely. With that, we will transition into your last guy here. We have a guy that I love, Tennessee quarterback Hendon Hooker, checking in at 6'3", 217. Obviously, with the medicals, he has not done any of the testing. He's going consensus QB5 right now. I've got him higher than that. I like if he was healthy, I think he's pushing for top 3 status here. I get he doesn't necessarily have the ceiling of maybe a Richardson, but he has a higher floor, and there's just something I can't put my finger on it. If he was healthy, I think he's right in there with the rest of them.
If everybody was healthy and started for a team week 1, I would not be shocked if Hendon Hooker was the best as far as a fantasy producer day 1 from this entire class. Absolutely. And so I think there's a very clear argument for 3. Bucky Brooks has him at 3. And so the analytics guys do not like him because he is 25 years old.
Who cares? Quarterbacks play till they're 35 or 40. I'll take 10 years of Hendon Hooker even if he's a low-end QB1. Who cares? I'll take that.
And what they're going to point to is there's just not a lot of data that's going to support a guy like this actually hitting. And I disagree because there's just not a lot of data to go through. There's not a lot of 25-year-old quarterbacks that get drafted in the first round. So you're basing your case study on, a handful of players, Chris Winkie and I forget Brandon Weeden. Those guys didn't work out. But Hendon Hooker, when you look at him versus the other class, and I'm going to give a shout out to my guy, John Laub from Gridiron School. He's got a rating scale of, he wants to know how many of his 6 categories can you hit. There's only one quarterback that has hit all 6 of his categories that he's looking for, and that is Hendon Hooker. As far as a passing efficiency rating, 172. Bryce Young's 165. CJ Stroud's 182. He's right in the middle between those guys. As far as a yards per attempt, is this guy just throwing the ball over the middle of the field like Jimmy Garoppolo? No, he is not. He has 9.5 yards per attempt, which is lower than Stroud, higher than Young. Completion percentage, 66.9%. Again, right in between Young and Stroud. And then you look at his interception to TD to interception ratio, 80 touchdowns, 12 interceptions.
I think he's going to be the godsend of this class for a lot of my leagues. You know, you've got the crappy teams who didn't have a quarterback. They're drafting early and they're going to be fighting over the 4. But I think what's going to happen is he's going to end up being the best value. And you're going to see that team that was desperate to get a quarterback. They couldn't get into the top 4 or 5 for the big guys. They're going to get him at the end of the first, early second, and he may turn out to be a steal and help that quarterback needy team that thought they missed out on a quarterback.
Yeah, I think Washington or Tampa Bay could take him in the first round with their picks. I think you could see a team like Atlanta or Tennessee jump back into the first round, take him at the end of the first round, get
Detroit.
that extra 5th-year option. Seattle and Detroit are sitting right there.
I would like to see him go to Detroit or Seattle, sit for the first year, get fully healthy, learn a bit, and then take over in year 2. I think he could be great on either offense.
Daniel Jeremiah has him mocked to the Minnesota Vikings at 23.
What's Kirk got left? Is Cousins a free agent?
Free agent next year.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And so, there's a lot of teams that I think could be very interested in him. He does not run a pro-style offense, and PFF will tell you he's only had to go to his second read, I think, 17 or 16 times.
Wow, his guys are fast.
And so, it's part of the design of the offense, and he is doing everything that you're asking him to do. And so, one thing that Daniel Jeremiah said, out of all the statistics that you're looking for, the number one thing that you're really looking for, does this guy play the position well? Does he make good decisions? Does he take care of the ball? Do those things? And he absolutely takes care of that. He is number 3 in the class as far as turnover-worthy plays. As far as when the pocket is collapsed, he's one of the better quarterbacks in that. I think he was second as far as the QBR. When he's under pressure, you look at Will Levis and Anthony Richardson, awful. CJ Stroud, not so good when the pressure comes from the inside. Bryce Young actually does a nice job with it, even with his size and stature. But Hendon Hooker also offers. He's the second best rusher in this draft class, and nobody's even talking about it. 22% rushing equity. This guy had 2,079 yards rushing.
I didn't even consider that. I was just going to say that I think intelligence-wise and the way he reads the defense and operates on the field, it's him and Bryce Young heads in, like above the rest of the class. But I never even considered the rushing floor there.
Yeah, he offers more rushing than people talk about. I know he's coming off of an ACL injury. We've seen players come off of an ACL injury and do fine, even rushing quarterbacks. But he is a passer. He's got through 80 touchdowns. He is not just a rushing only quarterback. He's got good size. And, as far as being able to, transition to the NFL, all of the talk is that he is acing all of the interviews and that people really do have a first round grade on him. And so I do think it's very likely he goes in the top 40 picks, but I think he's in the first round.
I think he's the steal of the draft, but for sure. He's someone I'm definitely in rookie drafts. I'm looking at. I love it when I can get him. And I used to be able to steal him at the end of the second round. Now he seems to be creeping up to the beginning of the second round. So it's getting a little pricier, but I love stealing him. So, all right. Well, that's a wrap there. Thanks, Dave. Those were your 3 my guys. Did great. Thank you for your breakdown. You want to take one more chance here to tell everyone where they can find you?
Yeah, sportsgamblingpodcast.com. You can find my written work or SGPN Fantasy wherever you listen to your podcast or watch YouTube. SGPN Fantasy.
All right. Thank you. It was a pleasure having you, Dave. Again, I'm Aaron St. Dennis. You can find me on Twitter at FFMadScientist. You can find my written work and some videos at The League Winners, King Fantasy Sports, DLF, and Player Profiler, as well as my rankings on Fantasy Pros. This is going to be a continued My Guys series. I'm hoping to drop one episode per day. So check that out, going all the way up into the NFL draft. Once again, thank you, Dave, for joining me. This is Aaron St. Dennis, the Mad Scientist, and thank you for joining us in the Mad Science Lab. Take care, everyone.